News for today is that the accused movie theater shooter James Holmes was charged with 24 counts of first-degree murder. This situation in Colorado has really, it's stirred up a whole bunch of different debates and conversations here throughout the United States and the country. And we thought it would be an important thing to kind of bring home the discussion to the people here who are experts and talk about. We call it preventing tragedy, and I'm going to ask the guest the first question, and I'll introduce everybody just for everybody's sake, so who's in here. The Superintendent of the State Police, Stephen O'Donnell, is in studio with me. Colonel, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time. Colonel, we'll start with you as a law enforcement official. Your reaction to it. What did you think in your head? And when I say to you prevention, is it even possible?
I don't believe it is. You can't police or prevent what is in someone's mind. What law enforcement does, and we've been doing it fairly well, is we do active shooter training. But that's reactionary. That's after something happens.
To my right is Tom Martin. Tom, you are the Administrator of Clinical Service at the Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Health Care, Developmental Disabilities, and Hospitals. I imagine the police tend to be like the depot for this kind of stuff, right? Where you just, call the cops for everything. I mean, I have friends who are police officers who tell me that they get the strangest calls about, my cat's missing. I mean, so the police end up being the depot for that stuff. Is there an infrastructure to where that gets kicked up to your department?
Work closely with some of the police departments in our state. We have situations where we have one clinician located in the safety complex in Providence, so there's communication and dialogue about difficult cases.
Mayor Alan Fung, do you defer to them automatically, or do you say, well, hold on a second, let's relax here, we got to make sure we have the right thing, do you want to panic people? I mean, how does that work?
Before you implement any type of policy or moving forward, reacting to that, you've got to get all credible information available, talk to the experts. Obviously, I have to defer a lot to the colonel who has the law enforcement expertise. Even though I was a prosecutor, they're the ones with the policy and training, but I take that into consideration, and we help implement a policy going forward that balances all of those constituencies, because I've got to look at it too, exactly what you're talking about, Matt, that are we going too far? Is some of the actions that we can take, and can it be infringing on someone's constitutional rights?
I think what happens is people get caught up in the whole scenario of it. And what needs to be taken from the situation and what should be promoting, should be looked at very closely, is some of the things that people see before these incidents happen. You educate the public more. For example, like people who have social withdrawal. You can't underestimate the impact of someone who goes into social withdrawal.
There a limit to what an average citizen, exercising their Second Amendment right, should have access to?
There should be some reasonable type limitations.
Like
right now, obviously fully automatic weapons, you can't carry them around. But, in situations, as a former prosecutor, dealing with law enforcement, I don't think there are situations where, an AK or an AR-15, why should you be able to carry that in around with you?
What about just having access to it, just owning it?
Yeah, I've got no problem with owning it, but carrying that.
Should the average civilian have access to certain types of firearms?
Well, obviously, as a police officer, the preservation and the safety of our troopers and our local police officers are paramount. So the answer would be no. Cops don't like people being outgunned. What you should be interested in here is 132 of the guns seized from these shooters over 30 years, over 56 incidences. 3/4 of them got them legally. So they got them through the process that we set up. We live in a country of laws, so we just enforce the laws. We'd rather outgun people. But in this particular case, what I think is missing, the suspect in this case was treated, as we know now through media outlets, is that for schizophrenia.
Having mental health issues, so they'd be less likely to, want to advocate for release of reports for a weapons issue or to go out there and tell people they need help or ask for it, correct?
Well, I worry about the stigma. I worry about the stigma that gets associated with violence, with mental illness. I mean, any untreated illness, physical, mental health illness, that's not treated, outcomes are going to happen that aren't good.
Right.
And it's unfair that the folks with mental illness get sort of the stigma that of violence. So I take issue with that.